In this video, I'm going to take a look at the scripts behind Scratchel Mission 2 Meteor Share, just explain how they work and what they actually do. So I'm just going to delete these notes so you can see them. Again, whenever you're doing the task, you don't have to change these scripts at the top. You can if you want after you've completed the task, play about with it, but when you're actually doing the task, it's best just to avoid those. So, first piece of code, we're looking at the mothership sprite, which is the main sort of character in this level, because you obviously have to, if you play it, you obviously have to try and give the mothership controls and then guide it through the meteor storm so that the robots can reach Mars. So that's going to have the most sprites. That's going to have the most scripts on that sprite. So if we go back and just click on that, green stop. So first script is basically saying that when the green flag is clicked, so when the game starts, we want to show the mothership. And again, like we did in the last activity, it's telling it to go to x0, which is going to be the middle of the screen horizontally, and to go to minus 150, which takes us to the bottom of the screen. Okay, and then we have a forever loop then, and all that's doing is this one is playing a sound, which you'll hear whenever it started. That's playing that first sound, and then it's basically switching the costume. And you see I've put a random in for the weights just to kind of mix it up a bit so it doesn't look the exact same. There's a slight difference in the actual timings of the changing of the costumes, just to make it look a bit more, just to make it a little bit more interesting whenever it's animated. And then all these look blocks are doing is changing to the different costumes. So again, if we look at the mothership, you'll see there's quite a few costumes in this one. We have costume 1, which is like that. Costume 2, which is very similar. Only it's got a few blue lines at the bottom, and then costume 3 and costume 2, which has more of a glow coming out of the bottom of it. And this is just to make it look like the spaceship is actually moving whenever the game's played. If you just have a look at that, you'll see it's just changing. It just makes it look a bit more realistic and as if it's actually moving through space. So again, that's all those pieces of code are doing. These scripts are doing. It's just playing the sound forever at all times during the game, and there's just a few random weights in there just to kind of mix up the animation a bit. And all the costume switches are doing are changing between different costumes to make it look like it's actually flying through space. Mainly, the main changes being the actual blue coming at the bottom of the spaceship. The next piece of code that we've got is saying when the green flag is clicked, so when the game starts. So we've got a forever loop, so at all times during the game we are checking to see if the mothership is touching Meteor 1. Meteor 1 is that one. Again, they all look the exact same, they're just different sizes. So that's checking if it's touching that meteor. If it's touching Meteor 1, then we're going to play the sound zip, which if I just move, it's not going to work, is it? It basically just plays a noise whenever the asteroid hits the mothership, and then all it's doing again, like this piece of code, is just switching between different costumes. And these costumes 4, 5, 6, and 7 are the costumes which give the illusion of that it's crashed or that it's actually been hit by the asteroid. And then at the very end, I've set it to hide, and it's sending out a broadcast game over. So what I did to this was I just created one meteor, and then I right clicked it and I duplicated it, and then all I did then was I duplicated the code on the mothership and changed the value of the meteor from whichever one I made it. So if I was going to add another one, I obviously call it Meteor 5 and I would attach it to Meteor 5. So these 4 pieces of code are the exact same, because obviously the mothership is going to interact with the different asteroids in exactly the same way. It's going to crash, it's going to stop, and it's going to broadcast game over. And all game over is doing really is running this script, which is on the game over sprite, which says when the game is clicked, this should actually be closed off. Stop this script. What I'm saying is when the green flag is clicked, so when the game starts, we want to hide the game over sprite, Makes sense. You see, so it is there. It's just hidden. And then whenever it receives game over, which again is broadcast by the ship hitting one of the meteors, what it's doing then is it's telling game over, or what game over is doing is when it receives the game over broadcast, it is appearing on the screen and it's waiting 2 seconds, and then we stop off. So if we just play it, you'll see what that actually does. So you see one of these meteors is going to hit the mothership. You see it plays the animation, goes through the different crash states, the different costumes for the crash, and then displays game over. After 2 seconds, it stops the whole game. So that's the main scripts that we have associated with the mothership sprite. And then, as I said before, the meteors are all the exact same. They're just duplicates. All that I did was I changed the name of them and changed the size slightly by resizing them, just so that they look slightly different. And all this is saying is when the green flag is clicked, repeat 16 times. This is a piece of code, or this is a script that I use to make sure that that particular, if I click on whichever one, Meteor, I want it, so it's the big one. This is worked out the number of times I needed to run the repeat loop for that size of a asteroid to get it to go to the bottom of the screen and disappear. So it's probably a better way of doing it, but that's the way that I've done it in this problem, in the solution. So if we go through the different meteors, you will notice that the only thing different really will be the repeat loop, and maybe the repeat loop in here as well. So it's all about the actual speed of the asteroid, and these are the main things that have changed for that. So back to the first one, what I'm saying is we're going to repeat 16 times. That's again, that's length of the number of repeats I needed to get the asteroid from the top of the screen to the bottom. We're telling it to go to X. Instead of giving it a specific value, I've used the random this time, and this is basically saying anywhere on the X-axis. So it's going to go to any value of X on the X-axis, or the X-axis. And what it's going to do then, and we'll put Y to 250, so it's going to be at the top of the screen. And basically what this does is, this just means that every time I start the game, start it again quickly, you'll see they're going to random spots. They don't start in the same place. They're always going to random spots on the X-axis, which makes the game a little bit more interesting. Once it goes there, it is showing, and then we're repeating 75 times. Change Y by -5 and turn by 1 degree. So what that's doing is, this is where I've changed it to make it actually go down from the top of the screen to the bottom. So this was changed by the number of repeats needed in here was dependent upon the size of the actual asteroid sprite, and you'll see that is different in each of the different asteroids. The repeat at the top means that there are going to be 16 of that type of asteroid that are going to fall. That's what that's doing. And again, this all came down to the timing of the game and the length of time that I wanted it to run for. But basically all this is doing in here is making sure that it goes from the top of the screen to the bottom, changing Y by -5 so we know it's moving down the ways, and it's turning 1 degree clockwise. And all that does, if we look at it again, you'll see that the asteroids are falling from top to bottom and they're slowly rotating. I could actually change the value of that to make them rotate quickly, to make them rotate more quickly, but I don't think I really need to in this case. And once we've run that, the bottom it goes to hide. So this piece of code is getting from the top of the screen to the bottom, changing Y by -5 and rotating slightly. And then once it's at the bottom of the screen, it is hiding. So there are other ways we can do that. That's what I worked out was best for me in this case. And at the end of that, it's just stopping the script. So once it runs through the repeat loop 16 times, the script is stopped. And again, the different meteors are the exact same. Okay, same sort of idea, there's nothing really changed between them. All they're doing is moving down. The only thing that's changing is the speed of the asteroid falling and the number of times it had to repeat this loop to get it from top to the bottom, which was dependent on the different speeds and sizes of the meteors. The next sprite that we have is the Mars sprite, and this is basically just, if we go to costumes, you will see that it's just a red ball which looks a bit like Mars, possibly. And all this is doing really is saying when the green flag is clicked, we want Mars to go to X 148, which is about here. You can see it there just behind that. If I go to red and stop it, play it again, and just stop it, you'll see it up here. So that's it there. What it's saying is it's going to the back to make sure it's behind all the asteroids, because it looks that way if Mars was in front of the asteroids. So it's sent to the back layers. It's hiding it. We're waiting 1 second, and then we're setting size to 1%, and then we show it. So it starts off, it goes to this section of the screen, make sure it's at the back behind the asteroids, and then it hides itself. Waits 1 second, and then it sets size to 1%, and it shows. So we'll go on and just stop it on that. So stop it there, you'll see where it shows at 1% would be just before that. And then what it's doing is going to repeat 180 times. And there's a slight change in size by 2.5%. So this is worked out basically so that by the time we get to, it's run 180 times and there's a 0.3 second wait, so that works out about a minute. So by the time we get to a minute, Mars will be a lot bigger and take up a lot more of the screen. Given the view that the actual mothership is getting closer to Mars, and that at that point in the game, the user is almost through the Meteor storm. Okay, and then all this is doing, again, this should be closed off. If I have a control and I have a stop the script, all this is doing then is once it gets to, so once that repeat loop runs for 1 minute, it broadcasts mission complete and stops this script. And then what mission complete does is there a touch on that? No. What mission complete does is it's obviously broadcast out, and whenever the spaceship receives the mission complete broadcast, which again will be after a minute if the user hasn't crashed into an asteroid, it's going to glide 3 seconds to, and that's the location of Mars on the screen, 148 and Y is 50, so it's about there. It's going to glide the mothership up to Mars, and then it's a repeat loop to change size by -3, and all that does again, like we used in the last one, it makes the mothership look like it's actually going into Mars, getting smaller and going away. And then all it does at the end is stop this script. Then I think there might be another one at the end. Let me just delete this. And then if we look at mission complete sprite, all this is doing basically is when the green flag is clicked, so when the game starts, we're hiding the mission complete sprite. It makes sense because we can see it is there, but it's hidden because obviously we don't want to play it until the end of the actual game once the mission has actually been completed. It would be silly to have it on there at the start, so we're hiding it and we're telling it again to go to the middle. To go to the middle of the x-axis, which is around here, and to go to y -100, which is about here, and it's just going to wait there. Whenever it receives the mission complete broadcast, again, which is broadcast whenever the planet Mars gets a certain size, that is broadcast after 1 minute. So when the mission complete sprite receives the mission complete message, it shows itself and repeats 10 times, switching between the next costume with a slight wait again, and that is just to make the writing actually flash at the end to show that the user has completed the mission. So we've got one mission complete which is black, one is red. It's just to show that the mission has been complete, and all it does is it makes it flash on the actual screen. And the last thing that we had to do, stop the script, where's stop all? The last thing we had to do is, sorry, at the end of mission complete, so once it flashes 10 times, we've got a piece of code that just says to stop all. So when the mission is completed, the mission complete sprite appears, it shows itself, repeats 10 times, 0.2 second wait, so that's going to be 2 seconds of mission complete flashing. And what that does then is that stops the entire game. So that's to show the user that they've actually completed this challenge.